In the heart of the city, amidst the bright shadows of towering buildings, stood a slender and striking female figure. Letitia, dressed in dazzling attire, concealed the bitterness coursing through her veins. The deeply troubled woman wandered aimlessly, wearing a hostile expression, a countenance of hatred and boredom upon her. A very fine and luxurious outfit of fake belly stood out, a constant reminder of a motherhood she so desired to maintain her millionaire husband, but which was denied to her. She ran her hands over the belly, and her heart seethed with rage and fury at the possibility of never having her own child. After all, he would be her salvation. Her husband Fabio was very enthusiastic about the pregnancy, but she would never have imagined that the woman was lying to him. She had tried every way, doctors, medications, alternative treatments, always thinking of getting pregnant somehow, hidden from her husband. However, everything proved to be fruitless. As she wandered with her mind clouded by dark thoughts, something in the distance caught her attention. Letitia stopped and saw a poor young woman sitting on the sidewalk, a homeless woman, but who had something that the rich girl did not. She was pregnant. The indigent, dressed in worn and very dirty clothes, had an air of desperation. Yet, there was an undeniable sparkle in her eyes, the gleam of a future mother. At that moment, a horrible idea sprang into Letitia's head. Full of envy and disgust for the pregnant woman, she looked at the girl and saw a solution to her problem. A wicked plan began to form in her mind. "Hello, dear," the millionaire began, approaching and smiling. "Is everything okay? I see you're pregnant." "Yes, I am." "Why?" replied the girl suspiciously, relaxing in her tone. The streets had taught her to be skeptical and cold with people who approached for some special purpose, especially when someone very well-dressed approached. Letitia let out a forced and feigned laugh, took a step forward. "Well, I'll tell you, my husband and I have been trying to have a baby for years, but without success. So when I saw you, I thought maybe you could help us." The girl asked how she could help, but her expression was one of pure concern and fear. "Well, it may seem strange, but I can offer you a good amount of money or maybe an allowance, or how about a house? So you wouldn't live on the streets anymore, right? Think about your baby," said the ordinary woman. The young woman stood up and recoiled in horror, saying, "You're crazy. This is my child. I would never sell him." Letitia's fake smile disappeared, giving way to her true face. "Are you serious?" she said, trying to maintain composure despite already being irritated. "It's not like you can offer him a decent life. Think about his future. I'm very rich. I can give your baby a life you could never dream of. What will you do for him? Teach him to collect food cans or beg for money? Look for food in the trash? My son will be loved, and that's more than your money can give. I would be incapable of selling my child for money. A mother's love is worth more than that. Now get out of my way." The young woman was furious and walked away, leaving the millionaire woman behind. Letitia saw her walk away, and a wave of anger and hatred flooded her. "It's disgusting. I'll get that baby no matter what. That brat will be mine," she swore to herself as she watched the girl disappear from her sight. She was determined to get what she wanted, no matter the cost. The ideas in her mind were already spinning, devising a wicked plan to get what she desired. The woman returned home, and there was her husband, waiting for her. The raw truth was that Letitia, despite being a woman whose beauty aroused envy in many, was not beautiful inside as she appeared. Raised in a wealthy family, she lived under the whims of her parents, who provided her with all the advantages a girl her age could dream of. She was a princess, the center of the universe, which turned her into a spoiled and ruthless woman. Over the years, however, her father had been involved in many fraudulent situations. When she was 18, the family's fortune collapsed when everything came to light. Stripped of her luxuries and privileges, Letitia found herself facing an abyss. But instead of making her more humble, she forged herself as a determined hunter, willing to do whatever it took to return to the luxurious life she once knew. Destiny smiled upon the woman during an art auction, when her green eyes met those of Fabio, a prosperous businessman and owner of a leading company in the cleaning and air freshener market, amassing wealth beyond imagination. The contrast between Fabio and Letitia was glaring. He was known for his kindness, a true gentleman who treated everyone with respect, regardless of their social class. A behavior that the gold digger saw as a weakness. How can someone be so naive, thought Letitia, as she watched the man treating his employees with dignity. They are mere dirty servants, poor people. Still, using her charms and sharp intelligence, she managed to get close to Fabio, luring him into the web of lies she was weaving to ensnare him. She pretended to be a humble and kind-hearted girl. He, on the other hand, was captivated by her undeniable physical beauty and her apparent sweetness. However, over time, Letitia's mask began to slip, revealing the selfish, manipulative, and utterly unscrupulous woman underneath. Fabio thought long and hard about her and realized he was tired of her arrogant and presumptuous ways. She's not the woman I dreamed of to start a family with. She mistreats her employees, always asking for more and more money, increasing the limit on her credit cards, and doesn't even have the respect to introduce me as her partner at her parties. Just wants to enjoy an heiress's life, which she thinks she's entitled to. When the millionaire was about to end it all, when he finally decided to end the relationship, Letitia said what would secure her place in Fabio's luxurious life. With tears in her eyes and a malicious and manipulative smile hidden behind the veil of sadness, she said, "Darling, I'm pregnant." That simple phrase burned the businessman's heart, who had always dreamed of having a large family. At 35, he decided to give her a second chance. So he married the woman. However, behind the appearance of a mother, Letitia hid a terrible truth. The pregnancy was a lie, a farce to never leave Fabio. Despite the numerous efforts, the scammer could never conceive. The impossibility of having children frightened her, igniting the fear of losing her fortune. She realized that she was not willing to lose her husband, but above all, she was afraid of losing her money. To maintain luxury and privileges, desperate, Letitia resorted to the unimaginable. She decided to continue the farce, using a fake belly to sustain the pregnancy lie. Moreover, she was running out of time and needed to think of something, for the months were passing by. When she least expected it, the day of birth would come. So, after that homeless woman, a thin woman with deep green eyes, so similar to Letitia's, and dark, wavy hair like hers, a flame of hope ignited in her perverse mind. However, with the woman's refusal to sell the baby, Letitia would have to resolve the situation. Moreover, Fabio was becoming more and more excited about the arrival of his first child, as he always wished to feel the warmth of his wife's womb. And Letitia always made up 1,000 excuses to avoid his touch. The millionaire was getting a little uncomfortable and suspicious. She would say, "It's a common discomfort of pregnancy, love. The doctor advised me to avoid excessive touches on the belly." And she felt nothing as time slipped through her fingers. And when the pressure became unbearable, Letitia made a macabre decision, sinking even deeper into her pit of despair. She resorted to the help of 2 wrongdoers, paying with the luxurious jewels the businessman had given her. "I want you to bring me the baby from the filthy cretin when it's born and get rid of her." Nobody will miss that human story. The beggar who had been followed by the wrongdoers for months was kidnapped from her nightly refuge with brutal pulls. Her cry of anguish echoed in the quiet of the night, but was ignored by the sleeping city. She was taken to an inhumane place, where she gave birth in the midst of fear and pain. The baby's cry echoed in the confined space, before being suffocated by the ruthless criminals, who ripped the child from his mother's arms. "Give me back my child," cried the poor woman, until her voice faded after the horrendous crime. The young woman, weakened by childbirth, was thrown under a dark bridge, abandoned as if she were nothing. The cold reality was that the scammer got what she wanted. Unable to simply show up with a baby in her arms, she told her husband she wanted to give birth alone. She claimed it would be healthier for the child to be born in the midst of nature. So, after receiving him from the henchman, Letitia returned to her mansion with the extracted baby in her arms. "My son, how beautiful!" Fabio celebrated with emotion upon seeing the supposed baby. He filled with joy, promising a future of riches and, of course, unconditional love to his wife. The woman, in turn, smiled contentedly. "I did it," she thought. Now she would have a life of luxury forever. However, even so, although almost too weak to stand, the young woman went to a police station to report the crime. However, instead of compassion and help, she found indifference and disdain. The authorities treated her with condescension, suggesting she was just an addict who had never had a child, or worse yet, that she had exchanged her baby for some substance. "Get out of here, go hunt rats around. We have more important things to do than waste time with things like you." The police's refusal to help only increased the young woman's despair. Without resources and without support, she found herself completely alone, her heart broken by the loss of her child and the injustice she suffered. Meanwhile, in Letitia and Fabio's luxurious mansion, life went on seemingly as usual. The born baby was being cared for by a hard nanny, while the spoiled wife enjoyed the comforts of high society life. However, what she did not expect was that human nature is much more complex than she could imagine. Despite all the meticulous planning, Letitia's mask began to slowly unravel. The baby she brought home was not just any child, but a real human being with real needs. However, Letitia was so involved in her own web of lies that she could not see beyond her own selfish needs. The baby, deprived of the love and care of his real mother, began to fall ill. His nights were filled with incessant crying while the nanny struggled to calm him. Fabio, worried about the child's well-being, insisted that Letitia seek medical help, but she always made excuses to postpone the appointment. "It's just a passing phase," she said, while her mind seethed with fear that the truth would be uncovered. Meanwhile, the young mother continued her desperate search for her lost child. Despite all the difficulties and obstacles she encountered, she refused to give up. Her maternal love was her driving force, guiding her through the dark and lonely nights. She knocked on door after door, begging for justice, but was constantly rejected and ignored. However, fate had other plans. One day, by a stroke of luck, the young mother crossed paths with a determined investigative journalist determined to expose the corruption and injustice plaguing the city. Intrigued by her story, the journalist decided to investigate further. What he uncovered was more shocking than he could imagine. With irrefutable evidence in hand, the journalist exposed the truth behind Letitia's deception. Her story made headlines in all the newspapers and television programs, shocking the entire city. Meanwhile, the authorities, ashamed of their negligence, finally began to act, arresting those responsible for the kidnapping and abduction of the baby. Upon learning the truth, Fabio was devastated. The woman he thought was his wife had been a lie all along. His trust was shattered, his heart broken. However, despite all the pain and betrayal, he knew that his first duty was to the child who was now sick. With the real baby back in his arms, the young mother finally found the peace she had been searching for. Although the wounds of the past could never be completely healed, she found solace in the love and kindness of the people around her. Her child, now safe in her arms, was living proof that a mother's love can overcome even the greatest adversities. Meanwhile, Letitia faced the consequences of her actions. Stripped of her wealth and status, she was sentenced to prison for her heinous crimes. Her fall from society's pedestal was a bitter reminder that greed and cruelty never triumph in the end. And so, the story of two women, one consumed by envy and ambition, and the other driven by unconditional love for her child, intersected in ways that changed their lives forever. While one found redemption through pain and suffering, the other faced the consequences of her selfish and cruel actions. In the end, it was love, not greed, that prevailed, proving that in the game of life, what truly matters are the bonds that unite us and the choices we make in the name of love. And with that, friends, today's story comes to an end. If you liked it, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell for more stories like this. See you soon, and may God bless you.